All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Mike from Twisted Axle, and I'm sitting up here at Shadowoods Racing. You know, if you guys know anything about the nostalgia racing and super stocks and things like that, you probably heard of Shadowoods Racing. So here we are with Jim, and he's going to give me a little bit of a shop tour, man. So thanks for having me.
Well, glad to be here. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We follow your stuff closely, and real proud of the job that you're doing out there, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. You guys, so we took a little bit of a walk through the shop, and man, it's kind of overwhelming, really. I mean, you guys got a lot of stuff, a lot of history.
Well, if you're around long enough, you know, you just end up having a lot of stuff. And
yeah,
when you start talking about nostalgia,
sure.
To me, that just sounds like normal, because when you're our age, you must be nostalgic, because what the heck, everything we did, we started in high school, and I would have been through my 60th reunion by now, you know. So
yeah,
it's, but yeah, we know. That's the cool thing about drag racing, and the cool thing about the kind of cars that we deal with. You know, we've been Mopar guys the whole time, but the cool thing about it is that it's okay to keep doing it. You know, I mean, I always look at John Ford, 74 years old, going 330 mile an hour. So, you know, what can I whine about if I got a little ache and pain? You know, just shut up and get in the car.
Yeah.
Figure you're the luckiest guy on earth.
But you must really enjoy it, you know what I mean, to keep doing it.
Oh yeah, no, I can't explain it. It's we took a few years off in the middle, and our dad passed away, and when that happened, we were like, hey, you know, everybody's got a deadline in their life, so why should we sit around and wait for it? Let's go racing.
Exactly.
It was the best thing we could have ever done. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah.
So yeah, you got a lot of stuff here. You're right.
Yeah. So let's turn this camera around and kind of see. Obviously, you got some capabilities here to be able to do some machining and whatnot, and do the things that you need to do and modify some stuff. But you know, I was talking with Elliot a little bit, and then he ended up pulling this guy out. So I was a little bit blown away by this. And when he told me what it was and kind of showed me it, so let's walk me through this guy a little bit here.
Like I said, you know, we've always, and I have to say, my brother is the guy that is the mechanic. He's the engineering part of it.
Okay.
But then, so these tools that we have here, these are all things that he accumulated over the years that all are very functional, but very primitive by today's standards, where you got guys on CAD, CNC machines.
Well, that's true, yeah.
He's sort of like his own CAD guy, you know. I mean, he looks at it and measures it, but it works out good when you're trying to do one thing at a time. And, you know, we don't mass produce anything here. Right. But this engine here is really something that I'd say would be part of, I would say that this is something that anybody would be proud to say they were a part of. Wow. In 1968, we'd already been through an ultra wheelbase car, 66 and 67.
Okay.
Our dad built a Charger funny car. Kind of an interesting story there is, my dad painted the Logie chassis for the big guys.
Wow.
The funny cars and the dragsters. And after they painted the 10th one, Logie gave them a chassis. And that got us into the flip-top business. So this engine here was part of a 68 Charger, a beautiful car, one of the most beautiful cars that I ever saw. Our dad painted all of our cars. But the cool thing about this was, it started out as basically a 65 Plymouth Hemi, you know, aluminum head stuff. And then my brother got this vision of trying to put 2 spark plugs per cylinder. And it's so normal now that nobody's going to believe this, but this has actually got a cast iron head on it, because he didn't know how to do it on an aluminum one.
Okay.
So he made 16 plug. I would say you could attribute to him the first one, the first 16 plug Hemi, and built his own container for 2 distributors. It's run on a belt. All this stuff was all welded up, all put together to run. And then you may have heard at one time or another, Chrysler had a handful of what they call flat cranks.
Okay.
Flat crank is what they call 180 degrees. You know, you got like 4 up and 4 down. It sounds terrible. It sounds like a 6-cylinder on steroids.
Okay.
And the new Corvette has a flat crank. Now, the 2024 Z06 is a flat crank. In 1969, he put a flat crank in this car.
Wow.
And I think, as I understood it, there was only 3 of those crankshafts. One's in here, one's on the shelf. I'm not sure where the other one's at. But when he first started it, it's like something's wrong.
Wow.
But what it does is it allows for a lot of RPM. Like, for instance, the normal Corvette is 6,500. The flat crank is 8,500. And it had the same impact on a Hemi. just the way the pistons go up and down. I mean, it's
I'm sure
really
we could
not
spend some time and talk about that.
Yeah, it's not real complicated, but then this is mechanical fuel injection, and and everything on here was pretty new. You've probably seen he has a couple sets of aluminum valve covers, which are very unusual. I think there's only maybe a couple pair, and those where he actually walked down the line and
I know he
punched
said
them out.
two pair. I'm like, oh my God, really? And the red anodized ones, right?
Yeah, the red ones are cool.
He's like, it's like a third of the weight and that kind of stuff. But
but it was just, again, it's just one of them things that, you're just always looking for an edge. You want something to people to talk about, and here we are talking about it 50 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, that's cool. So what kind of intake is this?
That's a Hilborn fuel injection, mechanical fuel injection. Nowadays, you hear about electronic fuel injection, and actually in the racing business, they have an electronic one that looks like this, but because it's all computer generated, it's pretty efficient, and it's real simple.
Yeah.
This is work. But our new car, which you'll see later, is going to have this kind of a mechanical fuel injection. We're having it rebuilt right now, so we'll have a real pain in the butt one for the new car too.
Okay.
We're dodging the easy stuff.
Yeah.
We don't know any better.
And so it's because of the UFO car that this came out of UFO
Volume 2, the Charger.
And then the color is like, that's not a Mopar color, is it?
No, it's not. No, the car was candy gold, and our dad, that's actually like a candy gold.
And you just went with the scheme that, I mean, okay.
The old boy, our dad, he was all about looking good. Low, he was an old World War II pilot.
Okay.
Everything had to be low, smooth, and sharp. And that's, if we got so much from our dad, we were very fortunate.
Sure.
But that's one of the things we've never broken from that tradition. That it's got to look good, it's got to be low, and it's got to be it's got to be fast.
It's got to haul ass, for sure.
But he was an old pilot,
And these Mallory, this is
2 mags because you got the 2 distributors.
These are the old school ones, right? I mean, these are a little bit hopped up a little bit.
They weren't at the time.
Well, that's true. They were probably cutting edge at the time. I mean, right?
That's right.
It really is an amazing piece to look at, and I mean, it could be the very first 16 plug.
I think so. I guess there's probably someone out there to say they saw one, but I was there when this created, and I don't know. I've never had anybody argue with me about it.
For sure.
So
let's take a look and see some of this other stuff that you got, and you got these valve covers too, right?
Oh yeah, well the red ones you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're out here.
Oh yeah, we'll take a look maybe.
This over here, just for instance, the stuff that we do. Logie's built a sports car back in the 60s, Ron and Gene Logie, that they raced. And it had a Podvenge supercharger on a small block Chevrolet. Wow. And right now we are rebuilding that. That's what this blower, these parts back here that you see in that bag is the engine for that car. So that car's being restored by a guy in Minnesota, and we're doing the motor and transmission. So
very cool.
There's a magnesium cross ram that I think there's only a handful.
I know.
Of those.
I saw that. I was like, wow.
And there's, and these 2 engine blocks have never been out of the crate. Those are both original Hemis. That's a 65 and a 70.
No shit.
They still got the tag on them, the shipping tags. They look like heck, but they're brand new.
So, I mean, the purpose of the magnesium was really just a weight reduction. Okay, so there was no other.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that because a lot of people talk about that, but there's also rare, and that's probably why they talk about it too, right? There weren't that many made.
Well, they're hard to work on. Like we would polish the insides, but it's a tough material. But we did ours. You'll see over here. You see the one that goes on our '68 Cuda.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and
you see how. And this is kind of normal now, but my brother was the one who cut these off, so that I could go inside and I could machine the hole inside of it instead of just what you could reach through the ports.
I noticed it was shinier.
And then you'd weld this back up, and we started doing them for everybody after that.
Well, it's all about the flow, right? You got it. It's like a big air pump.
Everything that gets in the way slows it down. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, man. Let's take a look in the shop.
Yeah.
It's really badass.
A couple of this is actually for the new 68 Cuda that we're bringing back, our Super Stock A car. You'll see in a bit.
Okay.
This is the motor that was in that car in 1976, freshened up. We're going to get it back together here.
Wow.
I don't know if any of your people ever heard of the Holiday Inn hood. I don't want to bore you too much with that, but if anybody ever heard of the Holiday Inn hood, nobody's going to see this, right?
Well, I mean, maybe a couple people. You know how social media is these days, you know?
Oh, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 people, because that is the Holiday Inn hood.
So it's funny that you say that, because my friend Ryan from Roseville, he's like, you got to ask Jim about the hood. Yeah, so it's cool to see. I mean, this is. So, I mean, so this is a real thing.
Well, if seeing's believing.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
here's the story, at least, right?
Yeah, that's what happened there. But
With the Winston stickers on the side.
well, the Winston stickers. You know, the whole thing you discover when you go through tech and get in trouble like we always did, is that if you can give them something to look at, they focus a lot on what you want them to. And that sticker really meant nothing other than, why is it there? And they asked enough questions about it, they missed all the stuff they should have been looking at.
Right.
But that was a hood.
Distraction.
It was. We showed up at the Division III race in 1972, and our dad made that hood, and it's real light, real thin.
Sure.
He made the scoops separately, and when he put it together, it was 2 pieces. And when I got to tech with that car, I took the doors off, the floor out, and everybody, the tech guys were so angry because it was a super stock car. It wasn't supposed to be able to do that.
Amazing.
And he said, don't come back with that hood because it was 2 pieces. And Donnie Bazinski, who's, rest in peace, wonderful, talented guy, was with me at tech. We went back to a Holiday Inn. We passed it in through the window of the hotel. It turned the bedspread over. We stopped and bought a quart of Bondo at the Ace Hardware or wherever, and some sandpaper, and we put it together and we painted it in the room, sanded all the Bondo in the room. The room's got to still stink wherever it is.
Right.
And
what year are we talking about?
1972.
Okay.
And when we showed up the next day, it looked just like this. And the guy said, "What the heck is that?" I says, "That's a 1-piece hood." And they let us race. We did real good that day. I think the hood scoop almost came off. But,
so who cares if it's got scratches and stuff on it? It's a functional 1-piece hood, right?
and it's the only time we ever ran that hood, and here we are 50 years later still talking about it. But
awesome.
But
man.
it's one of those urban legends that actually did happen.
Okay.
And now you've seen the beautiful, cosmetically perfect results of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's all about functionality.
This
really.
is a car we're working on right now that my brother raced at 66 and 67, an altered wheelbase, 65 Plymouth. That was the original UFO that some people have heard. There's a die cast out of it now.
This is the original UFO car.
This is a real, well, it's going to be a duplicate. The real one is in a museum.
Okay.
But this is, we're building one to be just like it. Only it'll have the traditional Shadowoods checkerboard and stuff on it because we don't want to look like the old car. But we moved moved the fenders. And when our dad did this back in '66, it was hanging from a chain fall in the gas station. And he didn't want to throw away anything that he cut out. So we're trying to build it the way our dad would have.
Yeah.
And we've got this. We came up with this in the middle of the night that we're revisiting Area 51. So this is.
Yeah. Well, UFO, right?
That's right. Just a joke.
Amazing.
Yeah, and this is kind of funny since nobody's going to watch this. I can tell you that.
Right.
This thing here is actually hinged. And
Okay.
And everybody wants to know why, and it really doesn't do anything. Okay, it's just if we ever needed access to something, but there's really nothing I'd ever need access to under there.
Right.
But everybody that when we break this car around, I'm knowing everybody's going to say to me, "What do you do with that?" I don't know. So, but this car has. We had a little health setback in the family here a few years ago, and we fell behind a little bit. And with all this enthusiasm about bringing the 68 car and the 64 car that we currently race to the Autorama, we thought we need to put this on a shelf for a while. But it'll be done by the end of the year. I'm real confident. We've got a guy working on it, helping us out, but it's going to be really cool. And I don't know. It's just a bunch of old guys being silly.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I look forward to hanging out with you at Autorama and stuff. We're going to have a couple displays too, so that's going to be a good time. It's always a good time.
Oh yeah. No, we've been going there for since the '60s, and like I mentioned to you, we're going to have our '47 Ford convertible in the Preservation Award this year, and that's been in storage since 1973 or '4. And that's a car our dad built in our garage on Rossini Drive in Detroit. And it's going to be in the Preservation Award, and it's actually a car that won first place there 10 years in a row at Autorama. So, and I got the trophies. So we're actually.
I'm assuming you're bringing them with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're actually going to try to set up a display just like we have an old picture of it there with white sand and goldfish underneath it. And I don't know if we can pull it off.
I mean, so if the car hasn't really moved in all that time, I mean, it still looks pretty damn good. Or?
I'm telling you, the old man. It's all lead and steel. He brought his acetylene torches home with him at night.
That's how you did it.
And it doesn't have a blem in it. It really doesn't. Some of the chrome is snotty, but I think we can clean it up.
Man, I look forward to seeing that.
I'm going to do as little as possible.
Look forward to seeing that.
When they want us to, it has to be able to start. And our dad left the intake manifold gaskets off in 1964 because my brother banged it up, and he said, "You can't drive it no more." And we got to put gaskets on the intake to get it started again.
Sure.
Dad will forgive us, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Wow. You guys putting in a lot of work here for sure. And
it keeps you out of mischief, you know?
Yeah, so altered wheelbase, right? So you moved everything up.
Well, you can get an idea where. We moved it 15 inches up in the back, and the fronts are moved up to, about 12.
Oh, so this seam would have been...
This would have been here. You know,
yeah, okay.
Take that out, put it back here, move everything forward.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is done like that underneath. You know, we took, because this is how our dad did it. It's got the real floor in it. You know, the floor was 15 inches back. Everything we moved.
Oh, okay.
We moved forward. So, you know, no waste. I mean, that's how the old man taught us. You know, don't throw stuff out you can use. And so we're trying to, because we loved our dad. We're just trying to be respectful of his theories. You know.
100%, man. Yeah. And it's cool that you're doing it the old school way. And I mean, it's old school car. It's what it's this
column
badass.
shift. It's going to have a column shift in it.
Column shift.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Automatic. Column shift in it. Which,
yeah, it's wild. A lot of modification just to the floor itself, and I mean, obviously.
Yeah, you see, like
everybody
right
can
here,
see up in there. You know,
this was all 15 inches back, all of this, and then we cut a piece out.
I see.
Pulled
the
whole
rear
thing
footwells had to be.
Yeah, they all came together. Then we just made them wider. We had a 3-inch patch in the center of the tubs there because we didn't want to tub it. We wanted to put rear wheel openings in it.
Yeah, all steel, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The things people do, eh?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Well, it's a passion, right? I mean, yeah.
It is.
Wow. Super cool. And then we got the 68 over here, and you had this at M1.
Yep, we had it there in August, and it's to me, it's become like a cult car for people. The truth is, it's a real 68 CUDA.
Well, the thing that really got me when I was taking video of it last time was that you had this sheet in here that says it's unrestored, trick, factory back, cheater car built in 72.
Yeah, you know,
as a
sometimes
survivor, you know?
people are so insulting sometimes, you know?
What do you mean?
Now this is, my brother was a test driver for Chryslers at the Woodward Garage, which is where the race program was out of, in Hamtramck, or Highland Park, I'm sorry.
In Hamtramck, okay.
And
I was going to ask you about that.
he was Buena Vista and Woodward. I think it was an old Pontiac dealership at the time. And he did all the testing at Detroit Dragway, and I got to go. You know, I was just a kid, like 16 at the time. I would get to go, and I'd get to practice and goof around.
Yeah.
And then what he did was he would change camshafts, carburetors, timing.
Oh, yeah. Let's walk around this car.
And when he did that, all that information was provided to, all that information was provided to the factory back cars, the Landys, the Ronnie Socks.
Okay.
And then this is all real gold leaf on here, by the way. This is before they made gold leaf out of vinyl. This
Really?
In 1973, our 64 car, there's a lot of shit going on here.
For sure.
Was in the center spread in Carcraft magazine.
Okay.
And the title of the article was "How Super Is My Stalker," and it was about our other car. And when the magazine came out, this car was being built, and we put that on the back.
That's hilarious.
But
Wow.
but this is
So
a real
car. What's going on over here? We got
you know, I'm
some
supposed
sort of
to say-
secret type stuff? I don't know.
I'm supposed to say I don't know, but I guess the statute of limitations is gone.
You know, if you don't want to let people know, it's all good.
Oh, it's listen. It really this holds the tubs in. We can take the tubs in out of the car.
Oh, wow.
Without you know, most guys that tub their cars, it's in there. And there's two Zeus fasteners inside. One here.
Oh,
one
I see
here,
it now. I
two
see
on
it. I see the one before, yeah.
And we could take the tubs out and we can service the car without, you know, having to go underneath it for a lot of things.
Gotcha.
And
So I think I'm gonna put this. You mind if I put it on top of the car and then we can just talk in the front?
yeah, not at all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is gonna work. I can always cut. That's the nice thing about video. as long as it doesn't scratch the paint.
Can you give me a little rouge or something? Or?
Yeah. I didn't bring my makeup person with me this time,
man.
you know what I mean?
You're killing me.
Oh my gosh. See how this works, trying it out. I don't know. All right, so 68.
Yes.
And you were the one racing it back in that time?
Stick shift car. I ran all the cars that had doors. Tom ran well, I should say the first UFO had doors, the older wheelbase car, 66 and 67. 68 and 69, he had a Charger flip-top car. And then I came along. And so this car was always me. All the other, any car that had the checkerboard on the side had me in it.
Okay.
That was a paint job our dad came up with in 1971. So Tom was done driving at that point.
Wow.
But yeah.
So I mean, obviously, since your dad was into racing and cars, and I mean, this has pretty much been your whole life, or what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, it was great though, because you know, he was, well, I don't know. I was hitchhiking from school to the gas station at 12 years of age.
Okay.
Because that's where you had to be after school. You had to be together, and then you want to know why you didn't get there quicker. And I'd say, well, you know, they don't always pick you up. You know, sometimes hitchhiking people, you have to wait for the next ride.
Yeah, for sure.
So you know what he did was, when I was in the 8th grade, he gave me a '56 Ford sedan delivery with a 312 in it, 3-speed on the floor.
Okay.
And I was only 14, and he says, you get pulled over by the cops, you'll never have a driver's license. And I never got caught. I never did anything wrong, actually, in it, other than drive it. But I mean, all I ever wanted in life was to be able to drive.
Man, yeah.
And
I love driving.
when he told me that, I was like, oh my God, that's too much, man. So it was all I needed. But then I got to work on time, you know. And but he was running midgets. We got some kind of neat pictures of him racing midgets before and after World War II at Motor City Speedway, you know, 8 Mile and Shaner. And then after we came along, when he came back out of the service, he owned a couple cars, and he had the trucks that did the push starting at the speedways. Yeah. And his trucks were all painted blue. They all had everything was perfect on them. And I just remember that was our first taste of racing. I never saw him race a car. I saw him pushing the cars around the racetrack.
Okay.
But you know, but he always had nice stuff, and he always wanted you to, you know, look the part. You know, that was important to him. You know, like we were raised at a gas station with clean hands. Yeah. You know?
Well, the cool thing is, I mean, you guys probably spent a lot of time together, right?
Always.
And that's the best part about
Always.
it, right? You're doing all that kind of stuff. And
he and my brother worked together every day for 50 years.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
All right, so Hemi car, right?
Yep, original Hemi.
I mean, tell me a little bit, what makes this thing tick, right?
Well, they made 50 of these, 50 Barracudas, and they made 50 Dodge Darts, similarly equipped.
Okay.
So there was Dick Landy had a Dodge and Ronnie Sachs had a Plymouth, and that's how they did it in those days. And it came like this with 2 Dodge A100 bucket seats. It's a very lightweight seat. Yeah. You know, and that's the way it came. And it has thin glass with like the glass you have in a car nowadays is what they call safety glass, where it's 2 panes glued together. Yeah. This is single pane, and it's only because it's lighter. But it was also not street legal, and these cars were never legal for the street. They had to build 50 of them in order to race them in super stock. Wow. And so they did, and that's how it all started. They came with that big of a wheel opening. Okay. That's a much bigger than normal wheel opening, but that's the wheel opening.
I always wondered about that, yeah.
They came that way. They came with fiberglass front fenders, thin glass, 2 bucket seats, no back seat, and a Hemi.
Wow.
And
because I always thought that you guys had done that.
No, that's how that was the factory, if you will, the factory. They were actually built off-site from the Chrysler factory because they were not street legal. They were built at the Hearst shop on 9 Mile and Shaner, Ryan back in there. Okay. And that's where they all came from. And Tom was there every day, you know.
Wow.
And
I like the not so functional side markers, but you didn't really need them to be functional, right? I mean.
No, you didn't. And our dad was you know, he was a comic in when he basically filled in the holes that were there that had running lights and painted those. And just because everybody wanted to know why they were there, and it meant nothing. You know? We had the headlights painted in his car for a while.
Okay.
Like a funny car headlight, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a real headlight underneath. And everybody wanted to come scrape the paint off. Why you do this? Why you do? I don't know.
Just gets people thinking.
It just drove people nuts. And,
Wow.
and you know, the first time I went to TAC, you know, you saw the Holiday Inn hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, here's the door for it. The first time I went to TAC with this car, it had,
gotcha.
see these push buttons?
Yes.
So you could take the doors off. And we would change transmissions. It was a stick shift car. We would change transmissions so frequently that we decided we could make a way of having access to take the shifter off. We could actually change the transmission in probably 15, 20 minutes with two guys, because I could get in here and take out half the bolts with push pins and get the shifter off. And then somebody take the drive shaft off, pull 4 bolts out of the bell housing, put a transmission in. I could hold it through the hole, put the pins in.
Wow.
And in those days, you didn't have these quick change transmissions and stuff. It was a Mopar transmission with different gear ratios.
Right.
And we were changing them all the time. And so the first time I went to TAC with this car, I took the door off and I pulled the tub out, and NHRA went nuts. I mean, it was like, you know, just
Nobody had ever done stuff like that.
They weren't
right?
even doing it in pro stock.
Right.
And the super stock guy, and they just went nuts. What are you doing? What are you doing? I says, just trying to give you better access. The inner fenders are all held in with Zeus fasteners. There's nothing really that we service there.
Yeah.
But like the rear wheel tubs, it was one of those things that, oh my
just
God,
kinda
why did they
did
do
it,
this? And I wish I had a good excuse other than to make conversation.
So you were running like a 18 spline, 833 trans, and I mean, was it like modified more, all this cryogenically and all this, you know, hardened stuff?
No.
I mean,
No, it was, you know what? It was made. We ran Doug Nash transmissions. There was Liberty was out there at the time.
Okay.
But Doug Nash was a little smaller. He was right down by the airport, and he asked us to run his transmissions.
Yeah.
But the only thing he would do, well, he did make better gears and stuff, and he would take off like every other gear, so it shifted a little easier. You know, it wasn't really something you wanted to drive down the street because it made a lot of noise. But but he would change the gear ratios inside of it so that we could have like a 320 low or a 277 low. You know, and in those days, that's how you adjusted your traction. You know, there was different gear ratios in low gear, and so a lot of times we were changing transmissions just to get a little better bite.
I mean, that's probably
But
where
it was a whole transmission. It wasn't like you could adjust it inside of the car. You know, it was a real transmission.
I mean, that's probably where you were getting the biggest called bang for the buck, right? It's you needed to have that good launch, and the rest was just
you didn't have track.
Get going, right?
You didn't have you didn't have burnout boxes and
Yeah.
you know, you didn't have prepped starting lines. I mean, we were racing on asphalt, and so because of that, you had to make an adjustment somewhere. And if it was really good traction, you could go to the 320 low gear, and if it was less, you went to 277, 290, or 320 or 308. And it's how we did it in those days.
Wow.
You know, I mean,
So you probably spent a ton of time at Detroit Dragway.
Oh yeah, I loved it there. Yeah.
So I mean,
we went to the Detroit Dragway. Well, he was testing cars, and I got to sit there and watch a lot of that stuff. No, I was there with Kurzawas and you know all the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a wonderful time. I was very fortunate.
So a little bit of a light, weight reduction here on the control arms on the top, or is
actually-
that something that was a stock thing?
No, that's a Shadowoods thing. And,
Okay.
Essentially,
I mean, you got to
What it
cut weight
does-
somehow.
it's actually not so much about the weight.
Oh,
this
really?
car doesn't move up and down. The torsion bars are basically rendered useless. Don't tell anybody that, okay?
Okay,
So don't
try not to.
Cut that out of there, right?
Don't tell anybody.
But yeah, this was all done in 1971 or 2. But I mean, it's
You're going a
pretty-
quarter mile at a time.
But you're
you know,
trying to move
pretty
the weight around, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And so this car, if you see photos of it, this was not a wheel standing car. This was a launching car. And
Launch pretty straight.
oh yeah, it was a wonderful car to drive. It was actually kind of boring. It was one of those where it was so tied together right that it just moved, and you didn't have to work that hard.
But that's racing, right?
Well,
You got to try and get
the
the
less
operating.
movement you're doing, the better you go straight. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Super killer car.
Wonderful car. Our dad made these
Really
fenders.
is.
You can see the fabric right through the paint. He never put any primer on them because he thought that it would make it added weight that was silly weight. And
Yeah.
he made the fenders. We got the molds for him up there.
Wow. Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm glad you're working on all this stuff and getting some things back on the road. And
Yeah, you can't really
Yeah.
see it. You can't see it, but in here is what we refer to as Fatso. That's our '64 Dodge.
okay.
That's a 9 flat, 150 mile an hour car. Actually, this is the hood we're fixing for right now, but this car's ready to go. And this car will be ready to go here, I would think, in the next few weeks. And then we really want to get focused on things for the Autorama, and then
Yeah.
we want to be ready to go. We're actually going to try to race this car.
Okay, I was
I've
gonna
been
ask
trying
you.
to go for like about 5 years. I've been trying to go to the Hemi shootout on the Friday of the U.S.
Yeah.
Nationals.
Yeah.
And believe me, this car is not going to compete with the guys that went down there. They're running 840s. I'd be really freaking excited if I went 940.
Yeah.
But so many people want to see this car that I feel like is, getting into our 70s now, we ought to figure out a way to let them look at it. And so some of the guys like Bucky Hess and some of these guys say, you know what, if you bring that car down there, we're all just going to stand and look at it and watch it, because it's a car that people have talked about and seen pictures of, but never saw it go down a racetrack. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
just
1976 was
amazing.
the last time it went down the racetrack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the tires that were on it.
So like aluminum wheels.
Those
right?
are called
Some
Super
sort of-
Tricks. It was a Krager wheel.
Okay.
I don't think anybody uses them anymore, but at the time
They look great though.
Yeah, they were anodized black, which was really unusual in those days. But we, like I said, the old man was all about, this is cool. He was
About the
all
look.
about looks. Yeah,
So the
everybody can have one. You want to be the best.
You guys were associated with the Ring and Pinion shop?
Yeah, Leo Zinda grew up with the guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he did all of our stuff. Still a very good friend. He's still racing
Good.
in Super Comp and Super Gas.
Yeah.
Great guy.
That's your number, eh?
And 3102 was our number. See, Division 3, your first number was your NHRA division.
Okay.
So we were 3102, and they don't number them that way anymore now, but the new car I got is T, you use your last name, and 302. So I tried to keep my number as best that I could, but
Yeah.
but it's this is all painted on. These aren't stickers.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The only sticker on here is the Hedman Hustler headers, but and again, that was just the old man, being crazy.
Well, plus you probably knew somebody, and
Yeah.
you made it your way. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of how the hot rodding is, right? You modify things, you do it your way, and
If you can't, you're missing out, man.
that's right.
know?
People argue with you and say, "Hey, where's your car?" I
Right.
do it my own way. But unbelievable car. I'm glad to see it again. Man.
Yeah, fixing a little crack that happened on that front fender in 1976, and this morning I walked in and I said, you know what, I'm tired of looking at that, so I took it off, and I'm fixing it over here on the other side right now, and next time you see it, it should be back together. But this is a car we're all very proud of, and I'm proud of the fact, I appreciate the attention that you're bringing to it,
Sure,
because
no problem.
to me it's like, I know there are people out there close to us that always talk about it, but you obviously that circle, it's bigger, and I want them to know the car really does exist. The car really is cool, and the car really is going to make a run this year.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm really fascinated just by the history of it, and it was a different time, and I really like the way that the cars were always set up a certain way. It had cool paint, and my dad would race a little bit back in the day and stuff, and I don't know, maybe that's where I got it from. He worked at Chrysler for 40 years and stuff, and then I don't know, it's just one of those things, either you like it or you don't, and you just go with it. But
I think when
super
you
cool.
walk out, I don't care what you're driving to get bread and milk. To me, when I walk out, when I look at my pickup truck, I always think that's a nice looking truck. I always want it to look good.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a 70 Challenger 446 pack I bought when I was 18.
Wow.
I just sold it. It was 50 years old, had 12,000 miles on it. But I found a guy that was his dream car, and I wasn't going to drive it.
Okay.
It's just one of those things. So
Yeah.
I had 2 grown daughters that said, they would have taken the first 20 grand that came through the door. So I said,
yeah,
I
that would have been a
find
problem. Yeah.
I got to find the right guy.
I know. So, I got my 70 Coronet, and I'm thinking, man, my daughter's 15, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I need to start thinking about it now, right? I mean, need to get her in a driver's seat.
Yeah,
so she falls in love with the car.
Best,
you know what I'm saying?
That's the best thing to do. But then she'll find a guy someplace and screw it all up.
Well, I have to make sure.
You
Yeah.
better make sure he's got a cool car.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, times have changed a lot now, Of course,
I'm not judging, baby. I'm just talking,
I gotcha. Man,
no, it's
super cool.
The neat thing is, and I think too, when you talk about like your dad going back in there, you remember how cars always had a name on them? Like, you saw Mancini's Zuma, or you saw, Jungle Jim Lieberman, and Mr. Norm's Supercharger. To me, when I look at old cars, old racing photos, they always had a name on them that meant something. Armand named that car, the original one, the UFO.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the original one, right.
And then, we had our friend Dave Tenney had a 41 Willys, and Mom called it the Buck Passer Day, just because that was a horse that could really run or something.
Okay.
And, I think that they got away from that as time went on. But, and we got our name on them in Shadowoods and stuff. But
Sure.
I think when you grew up in that era, it was kind of the norm that cars would have a name on them. Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head other than
Well, sure. I mean,
but it was kind of cool. Cars had a personality,
Yeah.
Like we call that car Fatso. We have T-shirts and everything and hats made up because when we brought it into the shop, it's a '64 Dodge, and it's like a shoebox. And we were sitting there singing, because everything we've always done was lower, sleeker. You got this friggin' '64 Dodge,
Yeah.
And I says, man, it's just a big fat car. What are you going to do? So we called it Fatso, and now everybody calls it Fatso.
That's how nicknames are, right? They
Yeah,
kind of stick. You get it. Oh, that's it.
Nobody calls it a '64 Dodge. Here you bring in Fatso.
Yeah. Well, I know.
Sounds like you might be hanging around with the wrong people.
I got a '72 Plymouth Scamp, and I just call it Scampy. And then my '70
What
Coronet.
a cool car that is, though.
I love that car, man.
That's a
And
cool
drive
car.
it anywhere, and I don't worry about the paint and stuff, and the kids can sit on it, and they're getting a little bit bigger now, so maybe not.
But think about those little names like they had, the Road Runner, and
Yeah.
the Scamp, and it's just I don't know. It gave things personalities. It was more than a car, and I think for us like you and your dad, they grew up around cars. They had personalities, whether they had a name or not. They were not all just cars.
And I think with the muscle cars, we're still driving them and stuff like that, and it just becomes a part of you. It really does become a part of you, you know what I mean? So it's,
you're half my age. You know what? How exciting that is to hear young people talk about it. When I go down to Radcliffe's, down at Roseville Moparts and all that, and I see some of these guys restoring these cars. And keep in mind, there are a few guys on there with gray hairs like me, and I'm glad they're there. But when I see that he's got his nephew or his buddy or his kid or somebody looking at it, I think, man, there's a little hope out there.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anybody down there with an electric one,
Well, keeping it alive and stuff, something that you love so much. And like I said, it becomes a part of me, and I look forward to working on it when I go home. And, when my daughter's helping me take decals off, that's something special, ain't it?
You find yourself cleaning the car when it ain't dirty.
Yeah.
It's like recreational cleaning. That's what I call it.
So I work with a bunch of chemists, and they're like, man, my car's just an A to B thing, and they don't understand it, and I can't understand that thought process, but it is what it is.
They are who they are, and you are who you are.
Yeah.
There's no reason to apologize for either of you.
Yeah.
But I think that's, to me, I like my truck. I tell these guys, I put once a year car polish on it twice a week. Why do you do that? Because I want it to be like, when I walk out, I want to say, wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's just a Chevrolet pickup.
Well, it's the same thing. Like when you walk away from your car, do you turn back around and look at it? I do every time.
I think when you look out the window from the kitchen, you ought to say, man, that's a nice looking car.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us alike.
Yeah.
And that's what makes other people different.
Man.
They're A to B guys, or they're holy cow, that's nice.
It really, really is.
Yeah. I like it.
Man, I really appreciate you giving me the tour and stuff.
Oh man, it was very good to meet you. Mike.
Finally having me out here at the shop and stuff. I mean, like I said, I've walked past you many times, and I know I've been by this car many times, and nice to finally be here.
Now
and
you get
do
to
all
stop
that.
and say hello.
There you go, and I'll bring the cars up here, and when the weather turns around, and yeah, that'll be good, man.
We
can
run
hang
the
out a little
Clinton
bit.
Township Gratiot Cruise the first Sunday in August.
Okay.
We have like 8 pre-car shows at bars, restaurants, Hennessy's, places that aren't far from where you live.
Keep in touch, you know.
We'll need to keep you busy. But,
For sure, appreciate it.
But anyway,
Appreciate
it's just good to know you're out there, and I appreciate all you're doing with your program.
Thanks, man. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed the video today and the shop tour. I know I did. I mean, I love this stuff. I could do this every weekend. But really appreciate all the support and everything you guys have been giving. And hey, smash that like and subscribe button. It really does help me a lot. And I'll try and give you more footage from the Detroit area and awesome cars like this.
I want to follow Shadowoods Racing on Facebook too.
And follow Shadowoods Racing on Facebook.
Yeah. Helps us out too.
For sure. Because I've been posting a lot of these pictures.
Yeah.
If you want to see more, you gotta like.
Attaboy.
Right? Yeah.
Very good.
All right, cool.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Thanks.